I've helped over 30 chiropractors generate $1.1 million in revenue from 2,859 new patients using $360,000 of ad spend. These are just from initial plans, not wellness, not retention, not referrals, just from the initial care plan. And so in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how we coach other chiropractors to do this while fitting their values so they can get patients better results and increase their business revenue. All right, so today we're talking about building out care plans. Okay, so this all starts with this idea of crafting a core offer, right? So in business, you're crafting this offer. This is like the main thing you sell and profit on. In chiropractic practices, it's typically some kind of higher ticket program or care plan. A core offer is not just a list of services, right, that patients can choose from. So the offer should be a structured approach to completely solving a patient's problem. Right? So we're a business, which means we solve problems. And so we need to put things into terms that people can understand. And so when you build your core offer, one thing to think about is package all your services into a single program designed to handle every problem your patient will face along the journey. Not every problem they'll face in their life, but every problem they'll face along the journey to solving their one problem. For example, you recommend chiro and rehab exercises to permanently address some kind of pain, right? The problems patients have with this is that they need someone to perform the chiro, right? It's the actual service. They need to know what stretches and exercises to do. They need the support to be held accountable to doing the stretches and exercises consistently. They need to customize all the stretches and exercises to them, the resources they have, the equipment they have, the time they have, and the abilities they have. So your core offer might be a 12-week program combining chiro, exercises, and stretches, all customized to fit the patient's needs, right? And so in addition, you give the patient accountability and support to build the habits they need to, leading to those real lasting health results. This is an example of a core offer, of a good core offer that solves all the different problems the patient might face in their process of getting through something, right? And so why do we use a core offer? Your results and your business growth are proportional in the long term, okay? So a great core offer leads to improved patient results, which means better business growth. And so it clearly defines expectations for the care plan recommendation and the price. This is super, super important. Clear expectations lead to congruency in how patients feel throughout the plan. Clarity and congruency give patients confidence that you know what you're doing, right? Fair enough. When you say a person is gonna feel better in this amount of time or get rid of this symptom in this amount of time, and then it happens, trust is built. It improves the patient experience. More patients end up sticking to the care plan recommendation. More people get results, leading to happier patients when they stick to the plan, which means more social proof, more reviews, more testimonials, more referrals, means better retention and more patients saying yes to wellness care, right? So stick with me. Wellness care, if we want to build a wellness practice, this is really important. It leads to more confidence because you know every person, you can literally look at the stats, 99% of the people that see me and start care actually get this result. And so you have more confidence, meaning more prepays because people are more convicted that you know what you're talking about, which means you collect more money up front. More money up front means you can reinvest into marketing and use profits to fund you getting another patient. More money up front means you can hit financial goals and time freedom goals sooner, right? And so let's talk a little bit about how you build the core offer. Okay, so 3 different steps here. So number 1, we want to package our care plan services. Number 2, we're going to determine the care plan number of visits. And then 3 is going to be the care plan pricing, okay? Because firstly, you need to understand what services do you offer. Part number 2, you need to know about how long is it going to take to get someone better. And then finances are very last because at the end of the day, finances don't matter until you know what the plan is, right? You know what patients need. So a couple points here. Your care plan recommendation must be clear and specific to set proper expectations. So create a standard care plan option. The goal here is to recommend the level of care that makes it unreasonable for 95% of patients to not get to 100% of their goals. Standard care plan lengths does not mean the care plans are cookie cutter. I want to make that very clear. Do what each patient needs in each visit, but by having some standards for the number of visits and the pricing, you will significantly decrease your operational complexity, right? And so standard care plans will fit most patients. But if a patient needs more customizations, obviously like use a standard plan as a base, customize from there to simplify things, right? But the more different versions, different plans, the harder it is for you to actually track where each patient is at in their process, the harder it is for you to set up a system to actually keep track of how many visits people pay for and so forth. And so there's so much more operational complexity that it means that you have to increase prices or your margins are going to go down or your time is going to be spent doing that stuff. Okay. So that's why I build things in this way. So care plan services, there isn't a magic answer for the types of services. Okay. But adding valuable services that improve patient results without requiring more of the doctor's time is typically good, right? Typically good to add things that make it easier for patients to get results and don't take your time. Package in whatever services and the number of visits patients need, regardless of what they may have thought they needed before coming in. Meaning I see so many docs that come in and are like, no, I don't want to package all these other things in because patients don't think they need that. Because patients are coming to you for your advice and your true recommendations. Package what they actually need. And then we can talk about how we actually communicate what they need and get them to buy into the idea that they need these other things. Okay, they didn't think they want. The number of people that don't think they need to change their nutrition in order to hit weight loss goals, or vice versa, don't think they need to exercise a certain way in order to hit weight loss goals, or don't think that they need to insert whatever to hit the goals that they have, right? It's kind of crazy. People will work out 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times a week and then eat terribly. And so it ends up not being not being impactful. So for example, if a patient just thinks they need a couple adjustments, that does not mean you shouldn't recommend the services will help them get to their goal. Okay, you're the doctor, which means they're trusting your honest opinion. And the key here is that you're finding out what their goal is before, so that you can always reference that and say like, no, like you are building this for them. Right? And so if we cannot get them to agree to the services we're recommending because we struggle conveying why they should do it, that is a completely different problem. But no matter what, do not compromise the integrity of your recommendation because of the discomfort. Okay, so that's the care plan services piece. On number of visits, once we know what services we're offering, if you don't know how many visits your care plan should be, ask yourself, how long does it take for 95% of my patients, all non-outliers, to resolve their initial complaint and get back to the normal life? Now, if they come in and they're like, no, I'm good, I just moved here and saw seeing another chiropractor, and you're like, no, they actually have no problems, you can put them on wellness care. This is not right. Hear what I'm saying, not what I'm not saying. But another way to think about this is, how many visits does it take for 95% of my patients to be ready for wellness care? And then why do we do it in this way? Because a lot of people are going to have questions about this. So you're definitely not alone if you're thinking like, man, I don't feel authentic doing this because I can't have one standard. The reason I do this in this way: situation one, okay, patient prepays for 12 visits. You told them they can start with the 12 pack and reevaluate where they're at. Okay, they believe you're saying that they'll be 90% better by visit number 12. They get to visit number 12 and are about 50% better. At this point, you've lost trust and rapport. You set the expectation in their mind and then did not deliver on it. Now you have to tell them they're going to need another 12 pack to get to 100%. And let's say you knew that it was going to be somewhere in the range of 20 to 30 visits. Situation two, patient prepays for 24 visits, but is feeling better after 18. You have to let them know that their visits they paid for will cover the next 3 to 4 months of care as they transition to once a month, right? For wellness care, whatever your wellness care is. What a tough conversation. You've already paid the next 6 months, right? Like it's a much easier conversation to do this. And so a couple tips here. If you recommend 12 to 36 visits in your care plan, people will always assume they're on the lower end of that. Tip number two, if you over recommend, you can always space out their visits to wellness a little bit sooner. So they don't lose anything by you over recommending. Number three, if patients have an expectation for 24 visits and they're better in 18, that is a good thing. You over delivered on the expectations you set. Nobody will complain when you tell them their next 3 to 4 months of wellness care is paid for. The vast majority of people are not going to, right? Understand, I'm talking to the general. Okay, the general rule. Note here, don't just extend plans to make more money, right? If a patient doesn't need it, obviously don't offer it. This should go without saying. So this is the implication here. But far more often than not, what I find is that chiros avoid giving their actual recommendations to patients. And so they recommend a part of care, but not the full amount it'll take to get a patient to 100% of their goal. Actually package and recommend the entire amount of care a patient needs to get to their goals. In other words, recommend the amount of care it's going to take them to get to wellness care. And so here's an example plan. I want to break this down here. Let's say about 95% of patients get to wellness within 24 visits. Okay. Here's some options for how you could structure it, right? You could do 3 times a week for 4 weeks. You could do twice a week for 4 weeks. You do once a week for 4 weeks, right? You build it yourself and figure out what works best to get patients results the soonest. Or you do twice a week for 12 weeks, or you could do twice a week for 6 weeks, once a week for 12 weeks, right? There's a million different ways. You can figure out what works best for your practice. But the sooner you're able to get the results, the better it'll be for most people. So let's look at some pricing options here. Why have multiple pricing options? So number one, retention increases with longer billing cycles. The more times we give patients a way to say they don't want something, the more opportunities they have to drop out of care. Meaning, if you bill one payment once a year, they're going to stick with you the whole year. If you bill once a month, the odds are more likely that they drop out in the middle of the year, right? Hopefully that makes some sense. Number two, it's a measure of patient commitment level. And so we can see how committed patients are on average by the option we see selected most often. Okay, some people will not be able to do a prepay, but we can look at the average number of percentage of people prepaying versus doing a monthly option. And then that makes it way simpler to actually like see like, okay, am I getting better at having this conversation or am I getting worse? So number three, prepay options lead to faster growth and improved retention because commitment levels are so high. Not everyone can prepay, but how do we get more patients to prepay? That should be the question. So patients will only prepay if these two requirements are met. So you have to meet these two things. Number one, they have to believe that their problem is big enough to be worth the investment into their health. Okay, if they don't believe that, it's not going to work, right? And this means both financial investment and time investment. Different people value different things. Okay, number two, after they know that this is, it's worth the investment into their health, they must believe you can actually help them solve the problem. Just because they believe the problem is worth solving doesn't mean they trust you and believe you can help them solve it. And so these two things happen in our consult and our ROF before we even present finances. If we meet these two things, these two requirements, then these pricing options make it a no-brainer to prepay. Okay, determining your pricing options. So step one, check that your pricing is high enough, update it if you need to. So the way that you do this is we start with your monthly revenue goal. My goal is to make sure that you can hit your revenue goal if your practice is full with the prepays, right? So step number one for determining your pricing options. Number one, we need to double check that our pricing is high enough and updated if needed. And so we start with our monthly revenue goal. If our goal is to earn 25K per month, we find out how many visits you can see per month, right? I'm trying to see if this is even possible. And so let's say you have 20 hours of adjusting time per week with 6 visits an hour, right? Don't include new patient hours. So this is assuming that those 20 hours of adjusting time per week are just for current patients, right? And this would be 120 visits per week you could see. I'm going to multiply it. We probably see about 4.3 weeks per month, right? If you actually look at the number of weeks. So there's 4.3 weeks per month. So number 2 is we find out how many visits you can see per month. And so let's say you have 20 hours adjusting time per week. Multiply that by the 6 visits you can see an hour. If you do 10-minute visits, that's 120 visits you can see a week. No, do not include new patient hours in adjusting time. That's going to skew your numbers. It's not going to be accurate, right? So for this example, we're just saying there's 20 adjusting hours, non-new patient hours. Okay. And so we have 120 visits per week. We'll multiply that. There's 4.3 weeks per month. And that's 516 visits per month. Let's assume you're only ever going to be 80% full on average. And so what we do here is I look at that and I'm like, cool, 516 visits per month times 0.8 is 412 visits per month. Okay. And it's going to be tough. Once you get to 80% full, it becomes so much tougher to fill the last 20% because your availability is off, because it becomes awkward for patients to schedule. No, those are typically your least convenient hours. And so you would do better by starting to expand the schedule than try and squeeze everyone into the last 20% before expanding. Okay, so step number 3, divide your goal revenue by how many visits you can see a month. And so for this, $25,000 a month is the goal, divided by 412 visits per month. That's $61 per visit we have to make. Okay. Step number 4, we're actually going to multiply our answer by 1.2. The reason we do this is because we are going to be talking about prepays. And with prepays, I typically recommend a 20% discount. And so I want my normal pricing to be up higher, right? So that even if everyone prepaid, which would be an ideal situation, we're still able to hit our goals. Okay. I don't want to trade us being able to hit our goals for people prepaying, which will help us hit the goals, right? And so I'd rather build a practice around a price point where even if everyone prepaid, which is the goal, we can still hit the revenue goals we have. So that's why I do that. So as long as your price per visit is greater than 1.2 times that number, then you can hit your goals. And so step 2, calculate your 3 pricing options. So this is where we're going to have to dive in. Okay. No, number 1, first option I have is monthly. I don't do any discount for that. Second option I have is split pay. This is like a secret option you can bring up if someone's like, hey, I just can't do the prepay, but I really want to. What could I do? And you could have this as like, hey, pay half now, half in 30 days, right? Something like that. And then option number 3, that's how you collect the payment and still start on the process, right? And then option number 3, this is the second main option, is the prepay with the 20% discount. Okay. There will be people in here that are like, hey, I want to do pay per visit. That's what people want. It's like, yes, of course people want that because it requires the least amount of buy-in, meaning they don't have to be super certain that you can accomplish the results you're promising in order for them to say, yeah, I'll pay per visit. I can just say this after looking at so much data, this will lead to lower retention. People will drop out. And if you're the 1 out of a million people, like maybe that doesn't, but I would rather stack the odds in your favor than against you, right? And so a lot of people have issues with this because it's like, man, but people just can't afford the monthly. Here's a place where I would push a little bit back on that. Okay. People are typically putting this on credit cards. The credit card statement is due 30 to 60 days, right? Depending on when your statement and the timing lines up. You're going to end up actually paying for this 30 to 60 days from now. So they're not actually paying for it from their checking account or from their pay stubs. Like this money going from their work to paying this, it actually is taking even longer than if they were paying per visit, as long as they're consistent. And that's the thing. Most people aren't consistent, which is why, right? And so we're trying to enable people to have a lack of consistency so they don't have to spend as much in that amount of time. It doesn't make sense. And so I would much rather just say, hey, if people aren't ready to get started with at least a monthly option, no worries. Let's wait until you are ready, right? Or let's actually handle the real objections that are holding them back, or real obstacles that are holding them back from saying yes. So pro tip here, if discounting your prices sounds crazy to you, use this hack. Instead of having to decide between wanting a prepay versus getting paid your normal rates, have the prepay price be your normal rate price. Okay. Meaning if you're currently charging $65 per visit and you do an 18 visit plan over 3 months, have your prepay price be that $65 a visit for 18 visits. Okay. Your monthly option, what you can do for that, it'll actually be a little bit more. So you can divide that by 0.8, multiply 1.2. It's going to be relatively similar number. And so your monthly option would be like $1,462 here, or 3 payments of $487. And this way you're still collecting your normal fees while you get the benefits of prepays as far as retention, better patient results, better referrals, better reviews, better case, right? The list goes on. Step 3, clean up your numbers. After you calculate your totals, then we can make the numbers look clean. And so that's like a 7 or a 9. Those are the 2 things that I would shoot for. And so here's an example. Let's say we're charging $80 a visit. Your recommendation is a 24 visit plan over 4 months, right? Twice a week for 6 weeks, once a week for 12 weeks. Great. When it comes down to it, step number 1, update our pricing as the pro tip above, right? So $80 per visit. You're like, hey, I want that to be my prepay price. Great. That'll be $100 a visit for the monthly option. And so then you calculate your 3 pricing options. Monthly, super easy to do the math. It's $2,400, which is 4 payments of $600, right? The split pay with a 15% discount would be $2,040, or 2 payments of $1,020, right? And then the prepay would be $1,920. Step number 3, we're going to clean the numbers. And so what does that look like? That means that we shift up the monthly to $2,396, right? 4 payments of $599, right? I'm making sure the last one ends in a 9. The monthly, it's not going to end in a perfect 7, but that's okay. It's because it's 4 payments, right? Split pay, $1,998, 2 payments of $999, and then the prepay is $1,897. I just decreased them a little bit just to hit the numbers that we're shooting for. So do not have multiple recommendation options or too many payment options. right? Only have one recommendation. Make sure that you get agreement on that one recommendation before moving into finances, because those are two separate things. They don't believe that the recommendation is going to work for them. What the heck are we doing talking about money? Because it doesn't matter anyways, right? If you don't need a car, why would I talk about how much this car costs? It doesn't make sense. And then only have one recommendation and only present two pricing options at any given time. Okay. A confused buyer does not buy. They'll end up having to think about it, right? It just means you're giving them so much info. Like I have to digest all this stuff that I'm getting. So keep it simple. And so another pro tip, I never allow pay-per-visit options because it shows a significant lack of commitment. People will use, I want to do pay-per-visit as a way to get out of having to say no. Okay. And so people end up no showing their second visit or third or fourth visit, dropping off early in the care plan. They'll spend a couple dollars here and there, maybe not get great results. They'll be your hardest patients to please. And you won't earn what you could from them. They won't get the results they're looking like. It's just a lose-lose situation. So don't recommend that. So to wrap things up, how do we build our core offer? Step 1, we identify the services required for the care plan. Step 2, once we have those services, we identify how long it takes for you to get 95% of patients to wellness care. Step 3, we calculate the care plan price that you built and we confirm it's high enough to hit your goals. And step 4, we create 3 pricing options: monthly, split pay, prepay. And then we start presenting them. And I have a full guide to actually learning how to actually walk through that conversion conversation and conversion process. But this will be what you need to build before being able to present, because you got to know what it is you're presenting, right? So let me know if you have any questions in the comments and we'll go from there. If you want help building your care plan out and walking through these exact steps together so we can figure out, hey, what are the most valuable things we could stack in the core offer? What are the easiest ways we can actually price this? And you want a little bit more custom training here, schedule a strategy session. Link is in the description. I'll walk you through everything and we can make sure that you are well on your way to being able to do that.